we are following this breaking news. And let's go a little bit further into who Sinwar was. He's the mastermind, again, as we said, behind those October 7th attacks on Israel. He was announced the new leader of the militant group Hamas. He rose to the top position after the killing of previous leader Ismail Haniyeh, an explosion in Iran that has been blamed on Israel. We do want to bring in a guest now to talk a little bit more about this, as this is developing breaking news. We're going to bring in Dr. Asaf. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And as this is breaking, I would just like to get your initial reactions to this news.
Well, thank you as always for having me. So as you said before, I mean, this is really a monumental day. This is justice served at its best. I would compare this to the taking out of Osama bin Laden in the same kind of mastermind of 10/7 is what we saw here happening at large. This proves that the Israelis indeed have served justice, and symbolically we're now obviously during exactly around the same holiday time where the war began last year as far as the Jewish holidays go, and here you are exactly a year later serving justice. It's also important to contextualize that where he was caught and where he was taken out is exactly in the area of Rafah, which is the area that's been discussed, and then the Israelis have been able clearly to find out that he was there. The intelligence that have come out thus far is actually troops in the area took out a building, but the intelligence came out, which has now been revealed by the censorship of the IDF, that most of this intel was found after the assassination that Sinwar took out those 6 hostages about a month and a half ago. The evidence that the IDF was found there, that he was there, clearly showing that he surrounded himself by these very hostages, showing exactly that, that was his lifeline. But it is a significant, monumental thing, and this will definitely this is a moral and a significant military victory for the Israelis. The question is, as you pointed out before, how to go forward. Most likely his brother will succeed him, and he is a much as rigid and as a difficult individual as Yahya Sinwar was.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My microphone was off. In terms of a retaliation, when can we expect one? And I'm sure there will be repercussions for this. When can we expect that, and to what extent?
Well, there's several retaliations that I think we're talking about here at the same time here. One is obviously the pending retaliation of the Israelis when it comes to Iran. There is no doubt that the fact that he has been the recognized leader of Hamas for the past 15 years. And after the assassination of Haniyeh, it's important to note that not only was he responsible for the military wing of Hamas, but also the entire political wing of Hamas itself. So he served in both capacities after the assassination of Haniyeh itself. So what you have now, most likely that whatever is left in the kind of the military arsenal of Hamas, no doubt we will see rockets being fired at the Israelis. But clearly this is a game changer in the sense that the IDF is pushing forward. Hamas has basically been devastated. And now is the time really to talk about how do you squeeze Hamas as much as possible in this disarray regarding the release of the hostages and how to move that along as soon as possible, because time is indeed at the essence. There is clearly a potential of using monies and carrots because most likely you will also see people be escaping and fleeing Gaza at the same time as a result of this man being taken out, given what he represented to the totality of Gaza and Hamas at large.
And of course, now this further concerns even more, right? That this war is going to just expand even more.
Yes, there's no doubt that, well, let's be clear here. The war has been a multi-front war all along. Israel has been fighting a war on at least 7 fronts here. We've seen over the past few months now where the military operation has also shifted towards the north. Significantly, it's important to note, of course, that today, by the taking out of Sinwar himself, is the fact that Israel has not forgotten about the South, because the South, it's where it all began, but it began this eruption of this multi-front war that's going around. Not to mention, of course, the fact that we cannot forget that all of this is being masterminded by the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we cannot forget that at large. Also, now is an opportune time. Let's not forget the Qataris that have been complacent with all of this, and with the fact that you have one of the leaders of Hamas still living in Qatar itself, Khalid Mashal. Now is the time to squeeze that element as well, freeze the assets, and try to move along. But we will be seeing retaliation, and no doubt that the Iranians will be providing this kind of incentive, as they're waiting, of course, and the Israelis are considering the kind of retaliation that we saw as a result of the attack that happened just about 2 weeks ago, when you had 180 ballistic missiles fired at Israel.
I also do want to talk about what we know so far in regards to this attack, because as we've said, Sinwar has been a target for the IDF, but he's been hard to find. He's been in tunnels. He's had hostages around him, reports of hostages being around him, which makes it difficult to go after him. What do we know about this attack, and what do we still want to know, how they were able to target him?
Well, so as I was starting to say before, the intelligence that has come out as far as DNA intel, and as far as potentially any kind of prints that were found in the tunnel where the last hostages were murdered. Hirschpalin and the other hostages that were killed about a month and a half ago, when there was discussion how close they were to a deal. The evidence that was found there is most likely what led to the targeting him and finding him where he was now. It's also important to note that Sinwar has not only barricaded himself in the tunnels, he's clearly been coming in and out, because the building was above ground, which means that there was exactly, again, mobility. It's not easy to stay in the tunnels. And so if you can squeeze the tunnels out in a way, the individuals will come out. It's also important to note that, of course, Hamas has been embedding itself within the civilian population, such as it is. And so there is a lot of in and out, as far as information that goes. But what Israel, let's not forget that Sinwar was in the Israeli jail system. He was fluent in Hebrew. There was enough DNA evidence, as far as verifying, his identity. But it does mean, and again, it's important to note also that there were 2 other commanders that were killed in this process itself. But this will cause a significant amount of upheaval and disarray within the organization. And it's clearly a devastating and, hit to Hamas at large. And I suspect we will see whatever commanders are left. And again, the question is where the central command, as far as information, is coming from, most likely from his brother, again, linked with Iranian ties.
We are expected to hear Netanyahu speak soon. What can we expect from that speech? Any new information that we may learn?
I expect Netanyahu to do a victory, round here. As I said, this is equivalent to the taking out of Qasem Soleimani and Osama bin Laden. He is the mastermind of 10/7. He is the one who orchestrated all of this. He was the epitome of the ideology, the vile, murderous brutality of Hamas at large. There is no doubt this is a success story for all the victims of 10/7, including the current hostage families, that justice has indeed been served. And again, Netanyahu, to my point, will say, from my vantage point, that we need to continue squeezing this until, as the objective of the war from the beginning, to eradicate Hamas entirely from Gaza. And by taking out Sinwar, that's clearly a message that has come, that has hit home very hard. And the fact that the Israelis are not letting their foot off the gas here. This is the time where we've seen a shift moving from defensive to offensive, and they are doing it on all fronts. The Israeli intelligence is good, actionable, and we're seeing that they are delivering results. And let's not forget that there has been, of course, American blood on Hamas and Hezbollah's hands. We, as Americans, and the White House in particular, should be thanking the Israelis for serving justice at this very point.